Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for those of you who have viewed my channel before, and welcome if this is your first video of mine you have seen. I am Exodus, and this footage is from the new raid, Crota's End, from the Dark Below expansion that released on December 9th. And the title, as you can see, Eve of the Hard Raid, which by the time this video is released and recorded, is probably finished and by people. But so yeah, this is a normal raid, obviously, again, because hard mode was not out yet and we wanted to polish up our chemistry. If you did view the first video, you will notice that I talked a lot about just the action you've seen, you know, on screen and what was going on during the raid and some of the steps during the raid. In this particular video, I'm going to talk about the Dark Below expansion itself and, you know, perhaps a couple other just random tidbits. So this raid, is I think was pretty solid. It's easier than the Vault of Glass in my opinion, especially once you get the familiarity down of what's coming and what to do. It doesn't take near as long, and it seems almost everything is like a time-based event. So that makes it kind of cool. For those people who don't have that much time to dedicate to the game, they can still get good loot in normal mode and progress their character from there on out. And it still caters to skill. You have to do things right. You have to do things good in regards to communication and coordination. So the loot is earned. The loot is. So yeah, a couple things this week, just a couple random tidbits that do segue into this video throughout the course of it is, again, the Nightfalls and stuff this week. One of my friends in this raid, Buddha, he got 3 exotics, over the course of the 3 Nightfalls, which in my opinion is unheard of. I haven't seen it really happen too often, and I've played since launch date. I don't think I've ever had it happen. Personally, so it was pretty cool because on his new level, 30 plus character, he just leveled up his 3rd character to a high level so he could raid again and do more stuff and, have one of each class. He got the Radiant Dance Machines on his Hunter because his last character was a Hunter, which we have yet to see drop, and so that was pretty cool. And on his 2nd run, he was on his Titan. He got the new Titan exotic boots, which again, ultra rare. We had never seen. Obviously Xur sold them, but as far as drops, this is the first time we ever seen it drop. And then on his Warlock, obviously they don't have boots, or he probably would have got boots, but he got a helmet that he desperately wanted pre-expansion, but it was the updated version of it, so I mean, all in all, it worked out. And it just seemed like tonight was his night. You will see at the end of the video he got something he desperately wanted again. Wasn't the top thing on his list, but it was up there. So yeah, it was pretty cool that he was having some fortune thrown his way by the loot system finally, because he has yet to have some of the nicer weapons in the game. And he's a good dude, solid dude. He always runs with us, and he's always upbeat, positive guy. And so it's cool to see him have some good fun times, good drops. Most of us here in this raid, we play together quite often. Stross and I have been playing together for years and years through various games, mostly Halo. We did some 2v2 tournaments and stuff like that together. We're involved in MLG and all that, so it just transitioned to Destiny. Like, we hadn't played together in years. We hadn't even really talked too much over the course of the past few years until Destiny came out, and then it was just like, no time had passed at all. We were back, talking all the time, playing together all the time, and we started out on the 360, which is actually where we met Buddha through another friend of mine, and then my nephew as well. Me and him started playing games together again because, again, we were playing different games prior to Destiny. We were both excited for Destiny, and so we play that together. However, he is not seen within this raid. Roscoe and Mugro I met through a computer game that I was playing over the course of these past few years, which was an emulator for a more classic game that came out in 1999, and we met on there a few years ago, so we know each other for a few years, and I told them about Destiny. They got hyped. I didn't know they were, console players to begin with, which in their respect, they will admit that they're not, console. They prefer PC, so they're not console gamers in their own opinion, but they picked up the game because they liked a lot of the aspects of the game, which tied into the previous game we met on, which was an MMO. So they like the social aspect. Granted, Destiny isn't considered an MMO, but it does have MMO aspects. So you combine it with the shooter, which they did like to play as well, and it definitely drew them in. So they all started on the Xbox One, and Zach Knight was also on the Xbox One. Me, Stross, and Buddha didn't get our Xbox Ones until we saw like a really legit deal thrown out over the holidays, and I believe we each got ours in early November, and then we made the switch. We wanted to wait because we didn't see any need to spend the exorbitant amount of money when we could play the game we really wanted on the old gen, when the new next gen system didn't really have any games that were appealing. And seeing as the Master Chief Collection had problems and still has problems, it was a very good decision to wait to save money on a good deal. So it all worked out. But again, so that kind of summarizes a bit of the raid group in which you see playing this particular run through. And again, I said at the beginning I want to talk about more about the Dark Below expansion. The beginning of the game was cool. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're familiar with Destiny. If not, I would suggest watching some old classic videos, because watching these newer videos, you'll notice over the course of time they're vastly different from the original vanilla game to this expansion, just in how things operate with currency and leveling and etc. So that's one of the things I want to touch on. The economy of the game has changed significantly. Now you can buy more things with Vanguard marks and Crucible marks, which are obtained doing missions or strikes for Vanguard marks. And for Crucible marks, you obviously play the PvP aspect of the game. You can get them through doing the normal Crucible, or when the Iron Banner event comes around, you acquire them through that as well. So prior to the Dark Below expansion, you could only buy armor or class-specific pieces, like the Titan mark or the Hunter cloak or the Warlock armband, and weapons from the Vanguard or the Crucible, as well as the faction vendors. Now you can buy upgrade materials, so you don't have to go around to the planets and farm anymore, which is pretty significant and pretty healthy, I believe, for the community, because there was a lot of time spent running around in circles essentially, or just a huge time sink into traversing the patrol areas, trying to find chests and trying to find the materials. And eventually people figured out good respawn systems and farming methods to make good use of that time and to maximize the output. But it's so much nicer to be able to not do that and to be able to focus on strikes so you can get engrams, focus on strikes so you can get better loot, and level up your other items that you have that you acquired from raiding or that you acquired from said strikes and said engrams, instead of pouring all that time into running around and trying to find stuff to be able to upgrade it and to begin with. Because when you were doing that before, you weren't able to really fully XP that gear. So to be able to XP that gear and strikes, as well as get the marks to buy the materials you need to upgrade it, is just it's just so much better. It was such a much needed improvement that they made. The Dark Below also only provided three new missions, one new strike on the Xbox One. As I said, I'm on the Xbox. On the PlayStation, I believe the only difference was one additional strike. I don't think there were any added missions, and they also got like a unique gun and something else. I don't care. I don't really follow it. I just know we'll get it eventually, so it's more content for us to look forward to that we don't already have. So again, in my opinion, as you can hear in some previous videos, I talk about the upcoming expansion, that there needs to be more. For this one, it was, at first I didn't like the concept of having as little as we did, because again, it was stuff we already seen, and it was, you know, just, it seemed like it was back to the grind, back to the repetition board. Everything was the same. However, the changes that they made in the strike layout and how the strike is actually you know, just experienced through the mechanics was a lot better in this one than it was vanilla. You know, vanilla, it seemed like every strike was similar, just with a different, you know, just with a different environment, essentially. So now, you know, with this strike, yes, it's the same, you know, playable areas that you see, but the mechanics of the strike are totally different than anything in prior, so it made it nice. The missions, they had new areas, however, they were seen because some people were able to glitch into them because they were it was on disc content, which I'm not going to get into all that because it was already, you know, debated about and talked about ad nauseum on forums and social media and stuff like that, which, you know, I can see why they would want to have it on the disc, unpopulated, just to help later, but at the same time, it is kind of stupid to have it on disc and not released, because it just shows that, boom, it's done. Why not put it out there? So, you know, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. But the missions themselves are pretty cool because it was centralized just on the expansion itself. However, that goes in turning point with my other, you know, rants of there needs to be more, because, again, you know, it needs to be, I think, a healthy balance between the new expansion providing something completely new, as well as staying focused on that, you know, expansion's theme. But at the same time, it needs to progress the story and the elements of the lore that are already there, you know, to have everything just tie in and mesh together well. And so The Dark Below did a pretty good job of staying exclusive to itself, providing something totally different. You know, you see the inner depths of the hive, you see the background of Eris, but it would have been nice to see more in regards to Eris' story, like more so who she is, what she was like before, you know, her raid, maybe who her fire team members were who failed the raid, you know, just more about her lore and actually show some cutscenes. Now, a lot of people complained about cutscenes in the original game, and I think the only gripe was that you couldn't skip them after you've already seen them, you know, once through, and it didn't mean no cutscenes whatsoever in the rest of the, you know, expansions or for the rest of the game, because obviously those help provide story, because currently the only way to truly embrace and get, you know, saturated in the lore is reading the Grimoire cards, which are accessed through, you know, the mobile app or going on your computer and going to their website. And I know there's other fan websites out there that were created to make that process a little easier and a little more time efficient. However, you know, for someone like me, I'd rather be in the game playing it and experiencing all that and figuring it out myself, rather than taking the time away from the game to go read it or, you know, go sift through it and try to see what maybe interests me, whatever. If they can find a way to start implementing that better and you get to experience it or just come across it in game, that's going to be huge for this franchise and make it, you know, leaps and bounds better, in my opinion. So, yeah, so I don't really do all that, but it would have been nice if they would have expanded more on that. However, they didn't. They didn't show any cutscenes. They didn't show really any history for within the game. But, you know, again, they did do enough, I believe, to pique your interest and get you involved in the hive background and in the story of these enemies, and, you know, to prepare you essentially for more that's coming on the way, and perhaps maybe, you know, potential storylines of flashbacks and so on and so forth that did happen in the past. So the 3 missions, in my opinion, again, were pretty smooth. They were fairly easy, but they weren't the same, you know, cookie cutter missions that you experienced throughout the vanilla campaign. They provided some newness, much like the strike did, so that was good. It seems, like I said, Destiny is continuing to improve. Like I said, the economy, they helped improve that from vanilla into this expansion. However, the only thing I didn't like with the new expansion was the fact that you had to re-level all your current exotics that you had if you so chose to upgrade them. Now, it's one thing to get them over again in a drop or as a reward and then have to level them up just kind of like you did the first time. That's sweet, that's cool, whatever. Understandable, it's part of the game. But if you're going to offer them as upgrades to reward those people who did get them the first time and potentially who did level them up and max them out the first time, I think their progress should be the same as what it was XP wise after you upgrade it as it was before you upgrade it. Now, if you didn't upgrade the first version of it at all, that's fine. Your upgraded version, you should start from scratch. But if you had it maxed out, yes, I understand the damage or the the defense is already initially better at the start than the max version of the previous. However, you already put that time sink in, you already put the materials in to it, and you can't get those back because when you break them down, the game just doesn't give you near as much as what you put in. Glimmer wise, of course, shards. Now the system now is different for exotics. You don't need ascendant materials, you just need an exotic shard and all that. So essentially that's why they made it to where you had to re-level up again, because the system was a little bit different. But at the same time, in my opinion, they should have been able to do things a little better. And there was talk that they were going to upgrade and change the system to something similar to my idea. However, it has yet to be seen. Hopefully for the House of Wolves expansion it's like that, because I know at that point, a lot of people I play with, including myself, do not want to have to level the same item up for a third time that we love to use, such as like the galley, or the icebreaker, etc. We do not want to have to re-max that out from start to finish again. And one of the things that just made us upset was because they said initially when you do upgrade it, the XP on it will go by faster, significantly faster than as if you were upgrading it from the first time. Because the first time exotics took a long time, even with telemetries, which telemetries, for those who aren't familiar, are XP boosts to your armor's experience gain or your weapons experience gain. Actually, no, there's no telemetries for armor. The only way your armor XP increases incrementally faster is if you have the Nightfall bonus. Whereas the weapons, you can buy telemetries from the special dude named Zer, who appears Friday through Sunday morning. And so, anyways, yeah, they, again, could have did a better job with the upgrade. We do not want to level our stuff up a third time in House of Wolves, which, again, we probably will, but hopefully they change it completely, retool the system by then. More things about this expansion that were favorable was the fact that you were able to use the black wax idols, which are a material tool to increase your glimmer gain from killing Hive if you use it. And they made it to where instead of just using it for that sole purpose, you could use it as a currency in a way to exchange your radiant shards for radiant energy and vice versa, or you could use it as a currency to buy other items from Eris once your faction is high enough, of course. And so that was cool to see that, because I know initially there was just no real use for them, and now that Glimmer is such a huge sink in each time you upgrade an item. Before, you would have max Glimmer no problem, and you'd have to purposefully buy something just to get rid of the cap, because you only get a 25,000 cap, which is saying only now is a little weird, because again, you rarely get capped out these days, whereas before in vanilla you were constantly capped out. So it's nice to see that. So I'm assuming with House of Wolves being kind of centrally focused within the Fallen enemies, that faction, that sector, that you'll see a lot of ether seeds being used in the same manner as you see the black wax idol being used in the economy now. So we'll see what happens. In my opinion, it was a good move, but at the same time, I think there needs to be more ways to acquire black wax now because of that same fact. before weren't really using it and vanilla, but now the fact that you're using it a lot, there needs to be more ways to acquire it, much like the previously upgraded or materials needed to upgrade your gear, like the stuff that you get, spin metal, relic iron, etc., etc. And they made that, like I said, they made ways for you to get that easier by completing daily missions, being able to purchase it with Vanguard and Crucible marks, as I touched on earlier. So I'd like to see a way to acquire black wax idols more officially, maybe make it an award within the daily quest, much like the other materials, or make more drop per mob, per boss, like Fogoth. Instead of just dropping 1, you can drop 5 or drop 10, and maybe within the raid actually see him drop more, stuff like that, because you do not want to see, yourself, I mean, you don't want to flood the market, but at the same time, you don't want to leave players, just doing the same thing over and over just to get one, and if it's rare to get one, then just guess what you got. It's gonna be like beating your head on a wall just to get a significant amount to be able to accomplish some of the things some of the players will want to accomplish, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. In which Bungie, I would say, would agree, because again, based on some of the changes they made between vanilla and this expansion, they already corrected it. So I believe they will make a change. I don't know if it's really been brought up yet by the community, because again, I don't really keep in touch with that. I'm mostly an in-game dude and only look at stuff in-game and focus on gameplay, etc. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they retool it. Overall, my impressions of the expansion, again, would say it was good. It wasn't great. There was a lot they could have added, and I hope that they, again, like I said before, implement for House of Wolves and whatever other expansions they have planned coming up. But the raid, summarizing the raid, like I touched on, the strike being completely different and the missions being different from vanilla. This raid obviously was complete change of pace from Vault of Glass. As I said, Vault of Glass was more of a puzzle, and you had to do a lot of figuring out. There's a lot of moving pieces to it, and you had to do things a little bit different to progress and succeed at the given missions and tasks at hand. Whereas this raid, it seemed a lot of it was time sensitive. The first part, obviously you ran through and you had to get through lamp to lamp, otherwise the lamps explode and you're weighted down, and you're gonna get overrun by all the thrall. And then the bridge part, that one's not necessarily time sensitive, but at the same time there's a lot of time aspects to it. By time the sword bearer comes out, you have to get it to cross. The bridge has to build. Those are all time sensitive little elements to the overall thing. Then once you get the people across, you just have to wait for those spawns to come out to kill, and then they're done. The Indiana Jones part, as I like to call it, in reference to for the second chest part, obviously that's not time sensitive to complete, but it is time sensitive to get the chest. That's the only thing, and a lot of people obviously want to get the chest. So again, we'll just rack that up and chalk it on the board as a time-sensitive ordeal. Whereas Vault of Glass isn't necessarily that way for anything aside from, I would say, the Templar. He enrages, but you can survive through his enrage, and Atheon enrages, but most of the time he's dead before before that timer goes off. But the opening part, that can last, that can go fast. The opening part of the Vault of Glass can go fast, or it can go really long. There's nothing sensitive about it. You just do it. The Conflux part, I guess, in Oracle part, you would consider time oriented. However, that can still be, there's still areas within those fights that can increase the time or decrease the time in the slightest ways. It's not like this last encounter you saw, the Death Singer. Oh, you have 3 minutes, and then if you don't do it in 3 minutes, you're done. You know what I mean? There's nothing like that. Where this raid, there's a lot of that aspect of it's time sensitive in regards to you have to have it done by this amount of time, otherwise your goose is cooked. Because even Crota, once he enrages, obviously you can't survive through it. I mean, at least I haven't seen anyone try it or do it, because it's just oversoul after oversoul after oversoul. And if you're focusing on killing that, you have very much else to do. And as you can see, to kill him, you need to kill the sword bear, monitor the boomers, and do damage with, on him with the sword. So again, this is just very vastly different in comparison to Vault of Glass, in my opinion. And it's pretty straightforward too. Vault of Glass, like I said, there's a lot of figuring stuff out, a lot of different moving pieces that were thrown at you to do and complete in succession in order to succeed as a whole on each part. Whereas this one, I would say the bridge part is probably the most intricate part of the raid, as far as doing multiple steps aside from the Crota part. And even then, I'd say is probably more so because you have to have more coordination, people being on the spires, someone picking up, killing sword dude, picking it up, getting across, and then, rinse, repeat on the other side so that everybody can get across. This part, obviously, of the raid is high coordination because you want to keep an eye on the boomers, make sure the sword bear's down, coordinate when the sword guy's going to jump up for when Crota is actually going down on his knee, and then, doing the rotation here of, going around and avoiding the ads so you can get back set up on the left side. So, yeah, this raid, again, it's fun. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to get through than Vault of Glass. And the reason I say easier as well is I think it's more so just because of the time. It's a lot quicker because of those time-sensitive elements to get through this raid, and it just allows you, more time to do other things once you do complete it. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get stuck on this raid, and it can take you a long time. Obviously, not every part is easy for people. You have to have team coordination. You have to, in order to succeed, and you have to be able to, withstand certain aspects. And you don't always, get through everything on the first try. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. But once you do get to a point where you're playing with people who are experienced enough to be able to stay alive and to be able to get through each part efficiently and quickly and in one try, this raid is a lot quicker in time than the Vault of Glass. So also adding the elements of, you can only have one dude damaging the boss essentially with the relic, the sword in this case. That was totally different than anything you saw in the Vault of Glass, because everyone was always able to damage everything in the vault, no matter what. The only thing that was reminiscent was taking the Templar shields down with the relics shield super that you get in the vault. And but it did damage to the Templar, but again, everyone else could also damage the Templar to where he would die, rather than as this, the only way Crota takes the damage necessary to be defeated is through the sword. So I think they did a good job, like I said, making it completely different in feel, making it completely different in gameplay, and making it completely different in mechanics from the first raid, to be able to have that fresh, just feel in regards to the expansion. As you can see here, for some reason the ogres came out early, probably because we damaged them real quick. I know it's still left up in the air on whether or not it's based on damage when they come out, but it seems like it's always 2 sword bears and then ogres no matter what. But this time, again, for some reason, it was only 1 sword bear and then boom, ogres. So we had to adjust on the fly. As you can see, we did that. But again, to talk about more stuff, in regards to the game, I would say, they learned a lot from vanilla to this expansion, but they have a lot, further to go, I feel, to completely release something that's highly enjoyed and well received by the majority of the community when it comes to this next expansion coming up. Hopefully they'll get everything ironed out with a couple more changes within the Dark Below, or while the Dark Below is the primary focus, and then so that way when the House of Wolves does come around, it's just a smooth transition, whereas the transition from vanilla to the Dark Below Again, there was a lot of moving pieces that were changed and a lot of nuances that you had to get used to that were just different. And I'd like to see just a smoother transition before the next expansion, or into the next expansion, I should say. And that way it just makes things, vastly improved and, keep people around, keep people playing. So as you can see here, we had we just downed him on this side. It was only one more hit and he was dead. And I'll wrap up my commentary here. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the reaction from Buddha.
Dragon's Breath.
Oh, Dragon's Breath, yes! Finally, something good.